Okay, so this is problem one of the midterm. So let's go ahead and start making it. I'll create a new part. Okay, by default, the unit set system is set to inch, pound, second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to note the way the geometry is set up. I know that there's symmetry here, so I'm actually only going to make the right hand side of this part, and then I'm going to use the mirror feature to create the entire part. I'm also going to note that there's a lot of places where I can actually throw in construction geometry to make it easier to create. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a center line. Well, first thing I'm going to start is the sketch on the front plane. I'll actually use my control key to move my origin over. It's easier to see. I'm going to go vertical with my construction line, and I'm going to make it infinite length. And then I'm just going to come over and drop out two more. One will be at 2.5 inches and one will be at 3 inches. And then I'm going to say OK over here on my line properties. I'm going to set myself to a horizontal line, and I'm going to do one which will be the center hole, one up which will be holes on top, and one down on the bottom. So let's put in the dimensions. So this first horizontal dimension will be 2.5. I'll drop it down here just to kind of correspond to where it is on the drawing. This next line will be at a distance of 3. And this point is at the origin corresponding to this circle. So the first line down will be a distance of 2.13. And then the distance from this top line down to this bottom line here will be 2.25. So now I have a bunch of locations that kind of define where I want the parts, essentially the circles to be. So I'll go ahead and put my circles in. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles that I'm going to make. So the first one is here. The second one is at this location. And what you want to note here is that this is a coincident constraint. And if I come over near the intersection, you'll see that the point changes, or the sketch relation changes, look something more like a spider, and that's telling you that you're at an intersection. So if you didn't catch that, the other way to do that would be just to drop the circle here so that you're on that line. And then what you need to do is select the point here that defines the center of the circle and this horizontal construction line and make those coincident. I'll put in an additional 2 circles, same location. So this one is at that location. This one now they're concentric to the actual circles. And now we can define which ones are equal to each other. So this center circle, holding down my control key, that circle, and this third circle are all equal to each other. And this circle here and this outer circle here are also equal to each other. So let me go in and put in my dimensions. So all these inner circles, there is the call out that there's 5 by 0.75. So this circle here has a diameter of 0.75. And then these outer circles are defined by these radiuses, so radius of 0.63. So to put in those dimensions, I'll put it in as 2 times 0.63. 663. Now this curve here that has a radius of 0.88, I could put it in using a 3-point arc, or since I know it's going to be tangent, I've shown this in lab, I'm going to just utilize the perimeter circle, and I'll select here, carefully drag down to select that circle, and then just drop the third point out here at some location. And then for this dimension, instead of being a radius of 0.88, I'll put it in as a diameter as 2 times 0.88. All right, so now I have the basics of it. So now I just need to add in 3 lines, well, 4 lines actually. So from this quadrant, I'll bring it over, making sure that I'm horizontal and coincident with that construction line. I'll zoom in here. I'll come down to the circle, hit escape to get out of that portion of the tool, get back into the line tool, and be coincident with that quadrant, bringing it over, being horizontal, making sure I'm coincident and horizontal and tangent with the circle. See all the sketch relations. Select here and go up again to be coincident with the bottom quadrant of the circle here. Okay, so now I have the structure that I need, and I'll go ahead and now extrude it. So I'll go Features, Extruded Boss. Let me again move this over and pull it out. So I want that area, this area, and this area, and I want to extrude it out to a distance of 0.35. So now I got half the part. Well, not with the inner cutout, but that's okay. I'll put this in as a separate feature. And now what I'm going to do is up to the mirror option. The mirror face plane is just this one. And I can do features to mirror, or I can do bodies to mirror. I like to do bodies to mirror when I have a situation like this because it is just a single piece. All right, so the next thing we need to do is put in this cutout feature. So I'll create a sketch on the front plane. And you'll see that the arc here is defined by two circles, a radius of 0.75 and a radius of 0.2.5. I'm going to put those in as center point circles. So I'll select one here and the other one being larger. And I'll go ahead and utilize some lines here. I'll select here. And as I go towards the center, again, we showed this in class that if I get close to or look at that origin, it'll give me a line that will intersect the origin. So I'll select that one. And again, utilize the line tool, come over here. Again, trying to see the origin and drop it where it's coincident. The other thing I'm going to do is I'll put in a center line. So I could make this infinite length or vertical. So I'll just drop it here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll select this line, the center line, and this line, let go, and make those symmetric. Then I just need to put in the single dimension here of 60 degrees. Then the diameter of this circle will be 2 times 0.75, so I'll just put it in directly as 1.5. And the other circle is a radius of 2.5, so I can put it in again directly as a diameter of 5. All right, so now I'm just going to utilize an extruded cut just to cut out this material. I'm not going to bother trimming, so I'll do Features, Extruded Cut. Select these two regions. I'll do a cut through all. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to put in the 4 fillets that have a radius of 0.38. So I'll go up here to the fillet tool, and the items to fillet are here. If you don't see this, that would mean that you didn't have the full preview turned on. And this is my second one. This is my third one. And let's see if I can, there we go. Just by zooming and rotating. And this is my last one. I'll change the radius to 0.38. And I'll finish the fillet. All right, so that completes the part. I'll do a Control-1 to put myself in that view. Let me move the picture up here a little bit, and I'll zoom this over here. All right, so we go ahead and we evaluate this. We go to the Mass Properties tool, and we ended up with a volume of 4.93 and a surface area of 42.78 square inches. Okay, so that completed the problem one. Now problem two asks you to make some modifications of the part, and there was three primary dimensions. Now I will point out, depending on how you went about changing the dimensions, you may or may not have run into an issue where SOLIDWORKS yelled at you that it couldn't solve the problem. One of the things you had to note that this diameter changed radically from 0.88 to 2, so it probably was the one that you wanted to do first. I'll show you what happens, and maybe you ran into it, maybe you didn't. So we're going to go back to our sketch, and we're going to go back and change some dimensions. So if I go to make this 2.75, Solid goes ahead and allows me to do that. Now, if I go ahead and try to make this 4, it's going to actually create a geometry situation where SOLIDWORKS can't solve this because this diameter is too small. So if I go ahead and change this to 4.0, SOLIDWORKS gives me an error saying that that's going to create invalid geometry. So if you ran into that, the next step would have been to change this to its diameter, which is 4.0, and then go back. Now the geometry can be solved. Now you can go back and change this to 4.0. Now, if you had gone ahead and changed this diameter first, it would have allowed you to work it. So it depends on the order of how you do that. Meaning, let me go back and change this back to a diameter of 3, and this diameter back to, I believe it was 2.25. So the geometry would have solved properly like that. So if you had changed this dimension, radius of 2.0, change this to diameter of 4, then you could have come back in here, change this dimension to 2.75, and then finally change this dimension to 4. So it would have depended on which way you went ahead and changed the order of your dimensions, whether or not you ran into that slight issue. So we'll go ahead and finish the sketch and go ahead and do our mass properties, and we ended up with a volume of 7.45 cubic inches and a surface area of 58.37 square inches. All right, so we'll move on to the next problem, but this was problems 1 and 2 from the midterm.